Wizards of the Coast just can't stop getting out of their own way. And I'm afraid I'm just going to have to take another rant on WOTC as Hasbro stock takes a huge dive due to the fact that Wizards of the Coast, which is apparent to everyone on the planet, has overprinted every card. Now, this raises a few interesting questions. One, why is Wizards of the Coast so bad at managing their game? How has Hasbro killed the golden goose who lays the golden eggs? But is there any hope of WOTC actually getting out of this? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there's really no way that WOTC can get out of it. They're completely trapped in their idiotic system that they're applying here. In much the same way that North Korea, for example, is a little extreme, but North Korea has nuclear weapons and uses the threat of nuclear weapons to justify its power and authority. Now, one of the problems with North Korea is, of course, we would love North Korea to disarm. One little problem, though, if North Korea loses its nuclear weapons or its attempt to get nuclear weapons, then the entire government disappears. They would be invaded, overrun, or whatever. So they can't give away the nuclear weapons because the nuclear weapons, or the threat of them, is how they justify their existence. Without it, they collapse. And no government is going to intentionally commit suicide by destroying their own foundation. In much the same way, Wizards of the Coast is stuck and tied to the foundation of their philosophy. They cannot abandon the philosophy. There is no Wizards of the Coast. If they abandon their philosophy, the whole thing falls apart. All their employees, how their products are made, how they sell them, how they create them, everything is based upon their philosophy. So they cannot sacrifice that philosophy. Well, what is the philosophy then? Well, not to get too political, but I think it's fairly clear that Wizards of the Coast is, at the very least, pretty strong on the left side of the aisle. They are progressive. They have progressive values, extreme liberal values. And that's fine. Wizards of the Coast can have any political opinions that they want. But Wizards of the Coast has made it a point to advertise that. Now, they do it much more strongly in Dungeons & Dragons over Magic the Gathering. In Dungeons & Dragons, they have made it very clear that they're going to be very sensitive about how minorities could potentially be affected by the content of Dungeons & Dragons. They've made it very clear that they're going to edit and censor content. They have apologized for past alleged insensitivities of content. They have banned certain creators, certain products, and have really gone to town into editing Dungeons & Dragons to make sure that it aligns closely with hardcore progressive values. Dungeons & Dragons has gotten so extreme with this that even content that they made a year or two ago, the same people who made it a year or two ago, they're censoring their work because it's already outdated and offensive. They're also making sure that minorities are represented, so they're putting in gay characters into the games, minority racial characters, different religion characters, whatever. Okay, they can do whatever they want. We don't have to buy it, right? Or we can buy it because we want to. And so that's how they're handling Dungeons & Dragons. And of course, that same philosophy is applied to Magic. Not as heavy-handed, but certainly it's been clear on the products, on the marketing, that they are increasing the amount of minority characters. Many of these products have black female characters on the packaging. Very intentional, as a new direction. I mean, there's really more black characters in Magic now than Mirage, which was a set created in fantasy Africa, basically. It's partially white Teferi, has kind of been redesigned. It's a subtle, quiet thing that Wizards of the Coast hasn't really admitted to. But the original Teferi design, he looked a little bit more Muslim, a little bit more Middle Eastern, had a turban. Now he's been changed to look more specifically of an African descent. Well, I would like to believe, or maybe we would like to believe, that, hey, they just refreshed his look. Knowing Wizards of the Coast, that's an intentional minority representative insertion. Okay, that's all fine. But what does that have to do with the printing of cards? Well, unfortunately, when you have strong, extreme, progressive politics, which Wizards of the Coast seems to exhibit and proudly talk about, you have a problem. You have a tendency to hate the marketplace. As compared to, let's say, a libertarian, I'm going to go extreme the other way. A libertarian essentially believes that a totally unregulated market is the perfect system. And the market will eventually, between buyers and sellers, things will kind of work themselves out. The invisible hand of the market will, just make everything work. Prices will be settled. Bad agents will be removed. Good people will be promoted. It's all just going to kind of work out by itself. Now, obviously, the progressive does not believe this. They believe that the market is a tool of exploitation, where the rich win, the poor lose, and the market is used against the poor to hurt them and to rob them and to steal their wealth. So, knowing that that's what Wizards believes, how do they address that? Well, the one thing that they really hate, and it absolutely makes Wizards of the Coast furious, is that there's a secondary market. They do not like that there are people who not only buy expensive rare cards that could cost hundreds or thousands of dollars, they especially despise that over time they might sell that card for profit in the future. So you might have bought Sapphire Mox for $1,000. Now you could sell it, I'm just pulling out numbers here, for $3,000, and Wizards absolutely despises that that's possible. To them, that is a crime. How dare you sell cards for such an exorbitant price? And the greatest sin of all, not only are you making that card not available to everyone across the board, which is incredibly unfair, but Wizards is not getting a cut of that money. So those two things have driven Wizards to the most heavy-handed market manipulation they've ever done. This is a totally unprecedented era. What happens is Wizards is very intentionally using the weapon of reprints to control the secondary price. So Wizards is very carefully monitoring the price of rare cards. If they start going up from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60, immediately that card is going to be in Wizard sites. They're going to assassinate it and make sure that there's a reprinting right away. Reprint. As they knock that price down. As every time a card is reprinted, it's knocked down. They do that by including reprints in new sets. They do that by now creating sets that are nothing but reprints. They do that by including bonus gimmick cards like the recent Brothers War artifacts. That's nothing but reprints. They also do this by including the new item in every booster pack called the list, where there's a random chance that you'll just get another reprint. Reprints. Assassinate the price of the cards. Keep the price of the cards low. Why? This does two things that Wizards loves. One, makes cards cheap and affordable for the masses. That's a great reason. And two, it punishes those evil exploitators who are profiting off the sale of cards on the secondary market. How dare you? So this is fantastic as far as Wizards is concerned. Now, here's the thing, again, here's the second piece that happens if you believe that the market is evil, such as how Wizards does. They also believe that the market is not what should determine the price, the invisible hand of the free market. That should not be determining the price. Buyers and sellers negotiating to figure out. No. That's awful. That's just exploitation. The best way to determine price is purely by dictation, meaning the Magic 30th boosters, how much should they cost? $1,000. Where did that number come from? Wizards just made it up. That's a good number, 1,000. Why does it cost that much? Did Wizards see if there's a demand to match that? Is that what people are willing? Screw you. It's $1,000. Why? Because Wizards is going to dictate what it's worth. Wizards says it's worth $1,000, and so it is. Now, of course, that doesn't work because regardless of whether you believe in a free market or not, or whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, it still exists. And so Magic 30th boosters are not going for $1,000. They're going for around $700, which is, that's the market has already, chopped the $300 off the price, right? But Wizards doesn't care. Wizards believes in dictation. So Wizards is dictating the price of the product. Dungeons and Dragons Baldur's Gate is worth $280. What is that based off? Nothing. It's just Wizards' whim. We decided it's $280, so that's what it's worth. With no regard to the customer. Why would we regard the customer? If, a negotiation between a customer and a seller is market exploitation, because the seller is a greedy business person who exploits the buyer. So there's no reason why Wizards is going to take any feedback on price or try to negotiate with people. No, that is using the market, and the market is evil. We're not going to do that. We're going to use dictation. So this is $1,000, this is $280, this is $350, whatever numbers they feel like coming up with, because they have the power to circumvent the evil market. And so they're going to do that. So what you have is Wizards is kind of doing two things at the same time that make no sense. On the one hand, they want rares to be extremely cheap, so it's available to the masses and punishes the evil secondary market. But at the same time, they're going to dictate extremely exorbitant prices based on nothing but their whim. So Magic 30th boosters are going to be $1,000, and all the cards inside those boosters are worth a nickel. And again, Wizards doesn't see any incongruence to that. This is perfectly fine. This fits in the philosophy of their extreme progressive political views. The market is evil, so we're going to completely ignore the market. We're going to attack the market by reprinting the hell out of cards. And we're going to ignore the market by just making up whatever price we feel like. And what are you going to do about it? Tough. Well, there are things people are going to do about it, like sell the stock of Hasbro, which has taken a nosedive. Pre-orders, I'm sure, are dropping like flies as all these stores, these evil stores, which again, Wizards is intentionally undermining with things like Secret Lair and direct sales. These stores are flooded with tons and tons and tons of Magic inventory they can't get rid of. Now, again, you would think, isn't the fact that Wizards of the Coast driving their local friendly game stores out of business, isn't that a bad thing? Well, no. Let's refer back to Wizards of the Coast philosophy, and the philosophy is markets are evil. If markets are evil, businesses are evil too. They have to be. So the friendly local game store is really just an evil exploitator of buyers. So if they're going out of business, fantastic. We don't want them around. Get rid of them. We don't want businesses making profit off Magic the Gathering. How dare you? You are evil. So destroying the friendly local game store, that's fantastic. Killing the secondary market, killing the speculators, investors, or collectors, great. We hate you. Crashing the price of cards so that anyone could afford any rare for a scant few dollars. That's fantastic. Again, we're not interested in any feedback whatsoever, because negotiation between a buyer and seller, that's the market. No, don't tell us anything. We don't care what you think. The market is evil. We're not going to use it. And yeah, we're just going to charge you $1,000 because we felt like it. It's a nice round number. I want a big yacht and things like that. So the chances of Wizards of the Coast changing anything going into 2023, 2024, are they going to respond? Are they going to step back? No, 100% no. Actually, in fact, I expect going into 2023 now, prices of Magic boosters will go up. There will be more reprints, even more reprints that you couldn't believe. I won't be surprised if we get 2 double master sets next year, maybe triple masters, but we're going to get more reprint sets. It's only going to go up. We're going to get more nonsense like double feature, which is just a reprint of a set that literally just came out. We're going to get more proxy offerings. Magic 30th is just the start. They're just getting started. You don't even know how many things they have on a little whiteboard about how they're going to reprint Urza Saga, they're going to reprint Tempest, they're going to reprint Legends. They're going to reprint all of it in proxy form. The reserve list has to die, and they will do everything they can to destroy it. And so it's only going to ramp up. The lame gimmicks, the reprints, the list is probably going to get expanded further and further. Don't be surprised if the list starts including proxies. So you can open a booster and your list card is a proxy Black Lotus. Whatever. So this death spiral is only going to get worse. If I can provide any kind of good news, I guess it would be that Hasbro is doing very badly, and at some point they might want to sell Wizards of the Coast. They might break off Dungeons and Dragons, sell that to someone else. That I think Dungeons and Dragons right now is a better property than Magic. I think there'd be more buyers interested in D&D than in Magic the Gathering. I think it's a lot easier to buy a role-playing license. You know, you could license out D&D for a bunch of video games and other products that Magic has failed to really do. You know, there's been a handful of Magic the Gathering video games, but they're all pretty sucky. You know, the PlayStation game was decent, but they're pretty bad. And there's not too many people interested in the trading card game space. I don't know if Konami would buy it. They have Yu-Gi-Oh, but who knows? So I think that's really the way out of this. Things are not going to get any better. It's going to get 100 times worse. And we can rant, we can rave, we can bitch, we can yell, but Wizards has no interest, zero, in customer feedback. If there's no market, there's no customers, right? If there's no fish tank, there can't be any fish, right? It's dependent on that, and Wizards despises the market. So best we can do is put up some videos on YouTube, decry the death of another great property, another great game. It did last 30 years, which is way beyond what this obscure fad should have ever have done. And it's been a good ride, so I'm going to hold on to the Magic cards I have. I was barely buying any Magic stuff, to be honest with you, recently. Have not been buying new sets. That's not going to change, you know, moving forward. I think pretty much I'll keep what I have of Magic, and I think I'm done with it until a new owner gets their hands onto Wizards of the Coast. You know, Wizards of the Coast is about to be sold, by the way. Spoilers. Wizards of the Coast will make a brave announcement, an email maybe on Twitter saying something along the lines of, Wizards of the Coast is doing great and is in no danger of being sold. The second Marrow, WOTC, or Hasbro or whoever says something like that, within 2 to 3 weeks, they'll be sold. So there's your little spoiler. Watch Twitter, watch the headlines, get your popcorn ready, and thanks for listening. Later.